According to a story by Kenneth Timmerman, Osama bin Laden could have been captured by the United States while he was in Iran, but the plan was thwarted, not by the Iranians, but by the United States government. Ken, what's the truth of this story?
Michael, this is one of the most extraordinary stories I have ever reported on, and I've been working on it for nearly 5 years now. I first met Alan Perot, who is the source of this information about Osama bin Laden being in Iran under the protection of the Iranian government. I first met him in 2004. I had a similar sighting of bin Laden in Iran from one of my own sources who showed me a photograph of Osama bin Laden in November 2004 meeting with top Iranian government officials, people who were working directly for the supreme leader. Well, this time I met Alan Perot. Alan is really an exceptional, extraordinary individual. When he was a teenager in prep school in New England, he kept a Savannah hawk in his dorm room and chickens that he would feed to the hawk out hunting. He is a falconer. He's a professional falconer. At the age of 19, he went to Iran to work for the Shah of Iran in the 70s. And after that, in the 80s, he was working for Sheikh Zayed, the president of the United Arab Emirates. Alan became a Sikh as a young man. That's a non-Muslim, non-Christian faith. He's a believer in peace, but he is also a conservationist. He has turned against the Arab leaders who at one point befriended him and paid for his services to provide them falcons. And he turned against them because they were exterminating the falcons, trafficking in the falcons, and exterminating the birds of prey, the bald eagles, and the houbara bustards that they used as prey for the falcons.
Well, I understand that his interest in falcons led him to meet a very notorious person. Tell us how that happened.
During his falconing exploits in Central Asia, Alan Perot came across a guide who ultimately took him to a Tajik smuggler. And this Tajik smuggler frequently went into Afghanistan and into Iran. And it was there in 2004, November 2004, that this smuggler first met Osama bin Laden when he was on a falcon hunt. Our listeners are probably not aware of it. It's not a very well-known fact, but Osama bin Laden is a big falcon hunter, like many people in Saudi Arabia. And in fact, the one time that the U.S. actually had gun sights on Osama bin Laden in February of 1999 inside Afghanistan. It was when he was falcon hunting, and he was falcon hunting there in the southern part of Afghanistan along the Pakistan and Iran border in Baluchistan with the foreign minister of the United Arab Emirates. And this information is actually in the 9/11 Commission report. It was Richard Clarke, then working at the White House, who called off the airstrike by a CIA Predator and other U.S. missiles that were going to attack him because the UAE foreign minister was in the falcon camp in that southern part of Afghanistan. So bin Laden's a big falcon hunter. And this Tajik smuggler who first sighted him, first went with him on a falcon hunt in November 2004, told Alan Perot in a 55-minute videotaped interview that since 2004 he has met with bin Laden at least once a year for 6 meetings altogether over the past 5 years. And he says that bin Laden is in Iran. All of these meetings have taken place in Iran. The Iranian regime has sheltered him during this time. And in fact, when the Tajik smuggler was meeting him, there were Iranian officials around.
We have an American who's disenchanted with Arab leadership and regular contact with OBL. Well, what did he do with this information?
Alan Perot gave this information, as you can imagine, to the U.S. government. He offered it to the CIA. He offered it to the FBI. He made sure through a whole slew of intermediaries, including a member of Congress, a member of the United States Senate, and a 3-star general, he made sure that this information made it into the U.S. intelligence system. And this as early as 2005. The answer that he got back systematically was we are not interested. We don't care if Osama bin Laden is in Iran. We are not going to go get him. We're not going to stop him. We're not going to demand that the Iranians turn him over. Well, this led Perot to see if there was another solution. And so in the past couple of years, he's been working with a group of former British SAS Special Forces operatives and others to insert a snatch team into Iran to kidnap Osama bin Laden and bring him out and turn him over to U.S. authorities. Well, that plot didn't succeed, and it didn't succeed for one extraordinary reason, is that the FBI told him that they would throw him in jail if he went through with this. That is just an amazing statement, Michael. I don't know if you can measure the import of that. The Federal Bureau of Investigation did not want a U.S. citizen plotting to kidnap and render Osama bin Laden to the U.S. authorities. They had no interest in capturing Osama bin Laden, even though the State Department has a Rewards for Justice page which offers $25 million to any American or anybody else who can do precisely that. The U.S. government under President Bush and today under President Obama has no interest in jailing or capturing Osama bin Laden. They don't want the man alive. They want him dead. Today, of course, the reason for the administration not wanting bin Laden alive is because he will undoubtedly tell the world that he was in Iran all of these years, and that the Iranian regime was sheltering him, and that the Iranian regime, in fact, bears a great responsibility for the 9/11 attacks. I have also been working, Michael, and I've written to document Iran's direct material involvement in the 9/11 plot, and I can tell you here just briefly, there is an extensive amount of information on this, including eyewitnesses who personally took part in meetings between Iranian government officials and al-Qaeda operatives before 9/11. The meetings took place in Iran, and we also have eyewitnesses. I've also spoken to people in the Revolutionary Guards who were sent into Afghanistan to liaise with al-Qaeda and the Taliban before 9/11. So there's a great deal of information here. It's not been coming out. The so-called mainstream media doesn't want to touch this story. The U.S. government does not want to touch this story, and it really has only been private individuals such as Alan who have been making sure that some of this information gets out.
What's the upshot of this story, Ken? Where does it go from here?
Stay tuned. There's a lot more to happen. There is a lawsuit by some of the families of 9/11 victims, led by Fiona Havlish and Ellen Saraceni, who's the wife of one of the pilots that was murdered, whose throat was slit by the kidnappers and the murderers on 9/11. They are suing the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and this information will come out, Michael. I'm telling you, it will come out, both of Iran's direct material involvement in the 9/11 plot and the fact that they have been sheltering Osama bin Laden in Iran and continue to. You'll find an extraordinarily detailed story about this up at the website. Thank you.
Kenneth Timmerman, thanks for being on the Savage Nation. I'll be right back.